No. Yeah, I've seen that.
But the gag is you were talking to me. So I will be talking. And that's what younger me was desperately trying to explain. I wasn't saying you have no authority over me. I was saying having authority over me should not mean you can do anything to me. They'll call it correction. So it was correction. And what are you going to do? Appeal to another adult, the same adult that will then ask you, what did you do? And that question is interesting to me now because why is the first instinct to find out the behavior that makes hurting a child make sense? I think when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I was eating really bad with a belt that I passed out. And after that, I don't remember my parents ever hitting me with objects ever again. So for years, I never really called what I experienced abuse. But now I do call it abuse. And I can say that now without feeling like I'm betraying my parents because that was what happened. And that is the correct language to use for that experience. So younger than me, I don't think she ever could. She'll be screaming, watching me say this now, like, girl, don't say that. And the reason why is because why would your parents abuse you? Your parents love you. Abusers are bad people. Your parents aren't bad people. Therefore, you weren't being abused. Easy. Except it isn't. In that experience, was passing out the line? Was that when the physical beating became too much? And if passing out was the line, what was happening 5 minutes earlier? Because the intention behind beating me hadn't suddenly changed. The belt was still there, it hadn't been taken away. The only thing that changed and happened was my body's response. Culturally in Nigeria, we like to negotiate. A slap, a belt, it depends. Bruise, what did the child do? Blood, okay, maybe that's a bit too far. Passing out, or in worst cases, death, that's too far. That's abuse. So why does the child's body have to demonstrate sufficient damage before we take the violence seriously? This is where I want to return to the question at the beginning. Did it work? Physical punishments can produce immediate compliance. A child stops, and then the parent regains control of the situation. But immediate compliance is not the same thing as a child internalizing why the behavior was wrong. Reviews of corporal punishment research found associations with aggression and poorer moral internalization. You can stop a child from doing something in front of you. That does not mean you have changed what they believe. Sometimes you need to stop them to make sure you don't find out next time. So in my case, I became more careful, but I also became angrier. And after I started physically hitting back as a means to defend myself, the physical beating stopped. The relationship did not become healthy. It just changed form. The aggression became verbal. There was still yelling. There was verbal abuse in form of insults and curses. And I became so angry. And I'm still an angry person in so many ways that I'm still trying to unpack and unlearn. I cannot sit here and tell you every trait I have was caused by being beaten. But I can talk about my own life experiences and say a lot of my anger is connected to how I experienced violence and aggression growing up. My experience is personal. But the scale of violence discipline in Nigeria is not at all. According to Nigeria's 2021 multiple indicator cluster survey, 90% of children had experienced violence discipline in the previous month. 90%. And 64% of mothers or caregivers surveyed believed physical punishment was necessary to properly raise a child. They think they're training you, preparing you, correcting you, maybe even protecting you. I will punish you now so that the world does not punish you later. So now we have to talk about religion. Spare the words or the child has almost become a cultural excuse for physical punishment. It gives this normalized practice a moral backing. Now, that exact phrase is not a direct Bible verse in that wording, but ideas about the word, correction, obedience, and honoring parents can be folded into an existing culture of physical discipline. I'm not saying Christianity or Islam are the main causes of child abuse. My point here is that religious language can be used to reinforce whatever a culture already considers legitimate. And then weirdly, religion can then appear after the child grows up. Forgive, honor your mother, honor your father, pray about it. It's wrong to carry grudges. And in my experience, it can also be used to rush victims towards forgiveness. One of my parents does not understand why I don't speak to them. And I find that frustrating because you hurt me and I remember. And I think that's something a lot of Nigerian parents seem to forget. Your children grow up, they don't tell you about their first heartbreak, they don't tell you about a mistake they made at work, they don't tell you when they're scared of something. The child learns mistakes are dangerous around my mom. Mistakes are dangerous around my dad. So they conceal, they minimize, they lie, they deal with things alone. And that same child becomes an adult and you expect vulnerability. Why? Why would vulnerability suddenly feel safe? Research actually supports that by showing harsh and authoritarian parenting with poor qualities in parent-child relationships, how do you teach a child fully that your hands can hurt them? And then becomes surprised when that child grows up uncomfortable with your touch and has resentment towards any and every little thing you say. And the clapback I notice that comes up is after everything I've done for you, you can feed a child, pay their fees, cook them, sacrifice for them. And those things matter. They're very much important. But material security and emotional safety are not the same thing. Sometimes Nigerian parents expect an incredibly deep emotional bond with their adult children without realizing that they never created a safe place for that bond to grow in the first place. And I can already hear the other side of this conversation. That's how our parents were raised. Yes, a lot of them were beaten too. Sometimes even worse. Imagine your dad was beaten with a wooden stick. Then he has you and he decides, you know what, I'm only going to use my belt. In his mind, he genuinely believes that using the belt is him doing better. 10 strokes becomes 3, a belt becomes a slap. But the issue is the belief underneath that behavior still survives. That pain is an acceptable tool for obedience. But explaining that does not automatically mean, okay, I have to
Yeah.
forgive them because they experienced it too. Understanding why
Yes,
someone
ma.
hurt you does not automatically rebuild trust with them. Understand your mother, understand your father, understand their sacrifices, understand their generation. But who understands the child? Why is contextualizing our parents' behavior considered maturity? But trying to understand the impact of that behavior on us called dwelling in the past. And why is that still your parent at the end of the day, treated like the end of the conversation? I know that. That's especially why it hurts. Sometimes our parents do change. They get older, so they become a bit more softer, and maybe everybody that meets them now recognizes how lovely, how kind they are. But you, as a child, you're standing there thinking, yeah, they are now, but there was once a time. Both things can be true. Parents can change, and the child can still be affected by what that parent The girl appears with tears in her eyes, saying that life is boring. She's trampled on his mud. No one wanted to save her an insignificant existence. Wants to be happy, wants her life to end soon. Only God can save her. Boy flying in the sky. He says, "It's the boy flies as a child can't death, even if he wants to live, will come to an end. Someone comes to then a nurse asks to the night should no one even think those are the black field. She comments that she needs to be realistic failure than hope. In the room comes across a friend, there's a boy in the shop who asks her not to scream, and she'll end up waking everyone up. He waves at her and wishes she
Why do you change it? Want to know? Just make